I discover a real, free money glitch because my boss says I can't work from home, but the entire company transitions to working from home. This story is about a coworker who we'll call Joe. The company we work for is fantastic, really good pay and benefits, and the work really isn't that hard. However, like most places with incompetent management, that one department was really bad. And everyone knows it, and from day one it was obvious that Joe was one of the hardest working people on the team, and our awful manager Samantha couldn't stand him. So this is a few years into Joe's tenure with the team, and for whatever reason or another, Samantha decides to put Joe on performance notice, which is basically an HR notice that says you have 6 months to get your crap together or you're fired. The reason on the paperwork was improper attitude. Joe was the kind of guy who always speaks his mind, and while management says they love this, brutal experience shows this is a lie. The problem with notice is that it also comes with penalties. No work from home, they literally take your laptop away and bring you a thin client, no approved overtime, and no learning new things or assignments. Oh, and no raise or bonus. You have to prove you can do your job well, and then after the 6 months, if you're not fired, the manager can extend with an additional probation period of another 6 months. January of every year is when we find out about our raises and bonuses from the previous year. And to put it delicately, that January, they effed us. To the point that one person walked out and 2 older employees, more than 30 years each, took retirement packages. Come February, we're drowning, and Joe can't work overtime, and Joe can't learn new things. Manager's orders, remember? Well, this is the middle of Joe's probation period, as Samantha predictably extended his notice. So this is where we find ourselves in mid-March 2020. Cue malicious compliance. During the lockdown, they send the whole company home. Everyone is working from home except Joe. He's home, just not working. He technically can't. And about 2 weeks into the lockdown is when Samantha finally notices. She goes ballistic. "Why aren't you working?" Blah blah blah, on a team email with everyone CC'd. He replies, "As you know, I'm on coaching and cannot work from home under your orders." She tries to get HR to fire him, to which they reply, "Samantha, you elected to continue the notice, which still has 4 months. We can't fire him for this, and we can't issue him a laptop until it expires." Turns out the only way to rectify it ASAP was to petition formally with the head of HR that putting Joe on a performance notice was done in error and have all parties sign, including Joe. All this happens except Joe refuses to sign. He won't sign anything until they give him his bonus and raise, which they do. The whole thing took a month. A month of Joe basically on free vacation. In short, a coworker on notice can't work from home because of company policy, and then COVID happens. There have been some questions that I feel the need to add some context to. First is the work we do. It's easy. Like any stereotypical corporate job, a concerted effort of around maybe 3 hours a day is enough to do your job. Most people just screw around, chit-chat, and milk the day. Some people go even further and milk the work so much that they need help with their workload. We have a coworker who would literally watch Netflix all day. Management never figured it out either, or they didn't care. I've had days where I've done all of my work before lunch and took the rest easy, and then I've had days where I didn't do a thing. Incompetent management creates so many grey areas. As long as the work gets done, they don't look too deep into who is doing what. And people get away with minimal work, knowing others will pick up the slack. This is where Joe found himself when the pandemic started. The company, which has never had all of its employees, or even a good amount, remote at the same time, was unprepared on how to handle the situation, and our managers were even less prepared. Joe literally just found himself forgotten, and didn't raise his hand to tell anyone for a bit. Oh, and Samantha and Joe? Ironically, when I left the team last year, she had to promote him, and then he moved teams as well. That performance notice thing sounds like absolute horse crap. A way to niggle and annoy your employees into quitting so that you don't have to pay them severance. The most calculating and corporate way to get someone out of a job with minimal losses and cover your own butt. Anyway, sounds like Samantha was the major fly in the ointment at that workplace. You can't try and fire someone for being in a position that you put them in, Samantha. Joe can't work from his laptop from home if you took his laptop away. It must have been so darn satisfying for him to get a formal letter saying that this was basically all her fault, and to get a retroactive raise into the bargain. I can't imagine that even after that point, Joe was able to contribute that much, after being trapped in his house and having been kept in the dark, unable to learn the same skills as everyone else for that long. Hopefully, he got a good couple of weeks playing video games in around the few assignments they handed him. Sounds like the company was inefficient enough that they wouldn't have noticed anyway. Gosh, the rest of us can only dream of a job where we all get our work done in 3 hours a day for a decent check, with the only major negative thing being an annoying manager or two. Short and sweet. City folk, come at the farmer. I grew up on a dairy, struggling every day 365 days a year to help my family live. About 10 years in, the farmer's land next to us has a single house built onto a small plot near the irrigation riser, and a younger family from the city moves in for the quiet country life. Over the next year, the cops are at our place a dozen times about smell complaints, noise complaints, because work started at 5 a.m., tractors and all, and other complaints about anything this family could think of, basically trying to get us shut down for existing outside the bounds of their imagined country life. In the winter, my dad would drive our tractor around to all the neighbors' houses on our mile and dig the snow out of their driveways so they could drive to work, a costly and time-consuming endeavor, but one of the main things a farmer can do to gain praise and feel good every day. Well, about 3 weeks into winter, this guy from the new house shows up at our door asking us not to do his driveway so early in the morning because it's waking him up. My dad explained he had to do it at 5 a.m. because he did it before he started the other chores that took hours. The neighbor insisted he do it later or not at all. That was the last time my dad did his drive. It turns out you have to wake up at about 5 a.m. to use your snowblower to dig out your own car, if you want to get to work on time. So instead of momentarily waking up at 5 every morning, he just had to get up to do some extra manual labor that he didn't have to do before. And you know what? I bet the guy who complained was too proud to actually come back and admit he was wrong to get the dad doing it again. Sucks to suck. I can kind of sympathize with this couple not realizing what getting back to nature would really mean in terms of life disturbances, but folks, you have to adapt to the situation and to not demand and complain that it won't change for you. This is a reminder to try out something first before you commit to it as a new lifestyle. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Pizza not spicy and well done enough for you? Alright then. So quite a number of years ago, I worked at a large pizza chain, the one with the red roof. Every Tuesday evening, a group of 12 people would come in to eat, usually within 30 minutes of closing time. They'd order one large vegetarian pizza with hot peppers and ask for the pizza to be well done. They'd also ask for chilies on the side. You might think, okay, what's wrong with that? Well, a large pizza would be cut into 12 pieces. This group would come in, take up a large space, only have water, order one pizza, and each person would have one slice, leave a mess, and not tip. They started asking for more hot peppers and complaining the pizza wasn't spicy enough. They also started sending the pizza back to be cooked more. It was already pretty dark. Well, one day they sent the pizza back, but this time asked for it to be remade, not just cooked more. At this point, it was 15 minutes before closing, and I'd cleaned everything and was pretty much finishing up my shift. Of course, the manager has to appease the customers. So I start making them another pizza. They want it spicy? Let's give them spicy. I added a coating of chilies to the tomato sauce, covered it with toppings, and added lots of hot peppers. They want it well done? Fine. Let's put it through the oven twice. It was a conveyor belt oven. Normally, well done is put in the oven 1.5 times. This thing came out dark and just smelled so spicy. I cut the pizza and give it to the waitress. I'm waiting to get an earful after the customer complains, all prepared with my reasoning that I'm just doing what the customer asked for. I finish my shift and the manager calls me over. Turns out the customer did ask to speak to a manager to say it was the best pizza they've had since they started coming, and it was just how they wanted. They asked if it could be made this way each week and left a very nice tip. Okay, for everyone asking in the comments, yes, the customers were Indian. For others asking why I didn't just say Pizza Hut, I always find it fun when others subtly describe the well-known store or brand. And as for the tip, it was split between everyone. Okay, I was with you in rallying against these guys for a while, but now it just kinda seems like this was a cultural difference. 100% positive result. I also kind of love that turning them into happy, well-tipping customers came from trying to maliciously comply and really annoy them. And I've done that too. A customer who used to insist on lava-hot milk in their latte from my coffee shop. Any barista worth their salt knows that burnt milk, which is achieved by steaming it above 80 degrees, kinda makes the milk sticky and clingy, and makes it taste horrible, as well as scalding the mouth of anyone who would drink it. So one day, after being complained at for the umpteenth time, I decided, screw it, I don't like this job today anyway, and I steamed the man's milk past 90 degrees. It looked bad, it smelt worse, and the customer loved it, and I swear I don't know whether to laugh or throw up. People have weird tastes. Entitled dad leaves me with his children on a plane. So this happened last weekend. I was flying out of JFK Airport in New York, aka one of the worst airports in the US, trying to not catch the plague. Double mask, frick yeah. When I was in the TSA line, I was surrounded by two families. A mum and her son behind me, and two parents with two boys in front of me. The mum in front of me was tired. Like sitting on a big carry-on bag while her husband wheeled her about tired. Dad was so focused on mum not falling off the suitcase that the boys were just darting about and trying to play with the boy behind me as well. It's 6:30 a.m. and I'm on 2 hours of sleep, so the world is just too much for me. But I also work at a special needs preschool for 2 years prior to becoming a therapist, so I know how to wrangle kids on minimal sleep. I go into crowd control mode, asking the boys about their interests, but reminding them we have to be quiet to talk about them. I found out that the brothers are Eric, 9, and Daniel, 6, and they're really excited about going on a plane. The boys start having a nice quiet convo about Minecraft. The mum behind me thanks me, and we actually have a nice chat about me previously working in the special needs school, and how fun it was. An hour and a half later, and I'm boarding my plane, and I see the tired mum like 5 rows back from where I was seated. She's at a window seat and she's already passed out. I sit, and about 5 minutes later, I see the dad and two boys coming onto the plane. The first kid, Daniel, sits down next to me, and Dad pauses for a moment, just staring at me. After a moment, I'm just like, is something wrong? I crap you not, this man proceeds to take the boarding pass out of his second son's hand, swap it with his, and tells his son to sit in the aisle seat. He then bolts to the row his wife is in. Once the disbelief wears off, the boys start asking me questions about the plane and snacks and the TV screen mounted in front of them. I'm so exhausted, I don't even fight it. I show the older one how to turn on the TV screen in front of him and tell them, look, I'm really sleepy, like your mom, so I'm going to take a nap. Both of them tell me to have a nice nap and I pass out. I wake up 2 hours later to my tray down with a nice water bottle and a bag of cookies on it. Apparently, my new friends thought I would want a snack when I woke up. What great kids. 30 minutes before we land, there's a commotion behind us and what sounds like running. All of a sudden, formerly asleep mum is very much awake and looking over both kids to make sure they're all right. Both of them mention how they're watching Moana, so they're perfectly fine. Mum then shoots her husband the neutral face of displeasure. If you don't know what it is, Google the fresh off the boat clip of it. When we get off the plane, Mum follows me to the bathroom to apologize. Apparently, she took some medication to help ease her anxiety with the flying, but it just knocked her out. You can't be anxious if you're unconscious, I suppose. Her husband was supposed to sit with the younger boy while the older one sat with her. She freaked out when she woke up and saw her husband, and in her drowsy state, she thought her husband forgot the children back at JFK, hence her panic. Apparently, her husband thought it was a good idea to leave them with me because he heard me talking about working at a school and figured they'd be fine with me. She apologized profusely, and when we got out of the bathroom, she made her husband apologize for abandoning our children with a stranger. The whole walk out to the pickup area, she was reminding her children about stranger danger and how they need to be careful in big places like this. Daniel gave me a paper heart he folded out of a New York City brochure So I have a new best friend. But yeah, the boys were really sweet and that mum was too. Lots of the replies are calling this one of the few wholesome entitled parent stories, which I think is good, as that mum was really caring for those boys and they were clearly sweet. That dad though, the audacity. Like, I saw a man throw a suitcase at the wall at JFK and get tackled by a cop, and this dad was still the most audacious thing I saw that day. Oh my god, that dad was absurd. I guess in his mind the alternative was leaving one kid to wreak havoc next to his unconscious mother, but still, they're clearly good kids if treated right, so there was almost certainly a way to deal with it without bailing on your responsibilities as a parent. And the fact that the story kind of implies he just wordlessly refused to acknowledge the potential crapstorm he was unleashing on a stranger, then just kind of ran away from the situation, like the parent from the film Force Majeure? Jeez. I will say that the author in question here was probably helped by the fact that all kids just tend to behave extra sweet around strangers and cause an absolute storm of chaos around parents, but that doesn't excuse the sheer gall and carelessness on display from the father here. Good on the author. It also sounds like the mum was a good sort as well, despite the situation. Where's Alex? I worked at a bar in my freshman year and had a manager who was incredibly patronizing and rude. She'd speak to everyone in the most disrespectful way and was even worse with the employees of color. One of her standout quotes was, "I didn't know Asians could speak German." She indicated she thought we were stupid all the time. My coworker, Alex, a black busser, got it the worst. She might as well have been calling him boy. We complained on his behalf several times and nothing happened. It was also well known he was working a lot to pay down some unexpected debt. One day I came around the corner and she was yelling the classic, "If you don't like it, then quit, whenever you like." Alex just turned red and shook it off. 2 days later, he tells me he has another job and will work both for a while and cut back on this one. One day after that was one of our busiest days of the year, but not worth it because tips are sporadic because everyone gets so trashed. One of the two bussers called in sick. My manager was annoyed. Alex became the only busser. She refused to help him. At one point, I couldn't find him, so I just started bussing my tables, because I had a busy but chill section, but still dishes were piling up in the bag. I called the manager to help. She said something rude about him, came upstairs and actually waited by the bathroom door, pacing. So creepy and inappropriate. She got a male coworker to check, but no one on staff was in there. Then she went upstairs. His stuff was gone. His locker was open with a piece of paper that says, "F you, manager, I quit. Now." Happy St. Patrick's Day. The manager had to do the work of two giant men all night for no tips. We made bank not having to tip out any buses. No other coworker could come in to help because they hated her. She cried when she saw that we'd each made over $500 in less than 6 hours, and she couldn't have any of it. I found out later the bussers had planned it, and one pretended to be sick, so they'd force her to work the most chaotic day of the year and then all of Alex's shifts for a week. She suspected, but couldn't prove it. His new job was apparently way better and full-time. Some more details: she was asked to leave because she was causing too much tension, and it reached a boiling point when she said a number of racist things and kept misgendering someone. I think they realized she was a liability. Definitely didn't really care about us. This was after 2 years of her because upper management was really dysfunctional and barely present. She claimed she was mean because she wanted kids but was still single. So whenever it was one of her nieces or nephews' birthdays, she had 10 of them I think, she'd get sad. And she told me I should be sympathetic because you have a man and no one will date me, not even fat dudes. She unfortunately never saw that saying that sort of thing might be what was keeping people away. Constant verbal diarrhea. She also hated me because I was black and went to a fancy college. She brought it up an absurd amount, like, "Oh, Linda works here with us, even though she went to Princeton. I guess she just got bad grades." Nope, just an actor with ADHD who hates office work as a day job and likes working part-time for a full-time wage. That wasn't my real name or school, by the way. She went back to bartending and made terrible money because she sucks. And then she quit that job to full-time plan her youngest sister's wedding for free for 6 months. I can't even imagine how that went with all her insecurities about being single and unbabied. I also imagine her entitled family of 5 sisters, now all married except her, is part of her baggage. No idea what she's up to now since no one wanted to keep in touch with her. She was something. Being unemployed this year really gave me time to pause and think, why the heck was I putting up with that job? Some of my friends who've done restaurant work have PTSD and won't go back to service work now. Amen to that last sentence, author. After more than 7 years of working in busy restaurants with entitled customers, I still have actual nightmares about some of the worst nights. And apparently, actual clinical PTSD from people who used to work in hospitality is a thing. I could work in a chill cafe again, but I think I'd rather be out on the streets than working in fast food or wedding catering again. But anyways, back to the manager. I mean, do we even have to contest that she's the jerk here? Racist, ignorant, fat-shaming, and just sounds like the kind of person you bail on when you get trapped in conversations with them at a party. Maybe there's some hope for her with some serious therapy and soul-searching. You can't just go through life behaving like that and saying everyone else is to blame for your social and romantic isolation. The common issue might be you. She has my sympathy, but yeah, on the night in question with the bailing busser, she got what she deserved. Good job, Alex. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.